Hi, everyone, and welcome back. We are now about to jump into the nuts and bolts of the biz panel. So I am going to turn over this workshop to Juliette, who will be moderating. So Juliette, I'll go ahead and unmute you so we can get started in just a minute. And one second, and then I'm going to go through, and we have on our panelists Sky Palkowitz, DeBorah Sharpe-Taylor, Mary Lou Sandler, Terrie Silverman, and Nadine Tran. So I'm going to go through and unmute all of you. So as you see the host requesting to unmute you, please accept that. So I'm going to pop through, and in the meantime, Juliette, the floor is yours.
All right, great. So I have all my ladies here, yeah? Perfect. So welcome to Nuts and Bolts of the Biz. I am an advisory board member of LAWTF, Juliette Jeffers. Some of you may have met me last night. And I would like to introduce our esteemed panel. Ladies, when I call your name, please wave so everybody sees who you are. So first we have Sky Palkowitz. She is a proud, long-standing member of the board of directors of LAWTF. Known as the Delusional Diva, she is an avant-garde multimedia performance artist, actor, director, producer, and coach from New York City. She has produced and performed 7 solo shows nationally and hundreds of characters. That's a lot. She has been using performance as a method of education and activism for 30 years, but she's only 35. She can be seen on TV, film, stage, and internet. You can find her on, check out her website, which is delusionaldiva.com. Then we have Terrie Silverman. Wave your hand. Terrie Silverman, MFA, is a writer, solo performer, director, dramaturg, and founder of Creative Rights workshops and coaching for writing and performance. For the past 2 decades, she has directed and helped develop award-winning solo shows that have toured internationally and off-Broadway. She produces and hosts gorgeous stories and solo show excerpts from her workshops, as well as full-length solo shows from her masterclass. Her website is creativerights.com. Then we have DeBorah Sharpe-Taylor.
DeBorah.
DeBorah. And I asked you beforehand.
I know, that's why I said it.
Yeah. DeBorah, sorry about that. DeBorah Sharpe-Taylor. She is an actor, vocalist, pianist, and instructor. She has toured with Harry Belafonte, The Supremes, Barry White, and Soul to Soul. She has a national T-Mobile commercial that's currently running and a whole bunch of past commercials that she's done, including numerous voiceover campaigns. Her TV appearances include Proven Innocent, The Neighbors, This Is Us, and she is in the upcoming film Music, starring Kate Hudson and directed by Sia. She has performed in numerous Broadway shows, including The Wiz, It Ain't Nothing But the Blues, Once on This Island, A Little Shop of Horrors, and that's just to name a few. She is also a national counselor for the Western Region of Actors Equity Association. So welcome, DeBorah. Next, we have Nadine Tran. She is a dancer and choreographer. She's a graduate of Cal State Fullerton, where she majored in sociology and dance. She's a former LAWTF social media intern and coordinator. Her last choreographic work, 7, originally created for the Wayward Artists dance collaboration, Next of Kin, performed in Smush Dance Festival, HH2 Dance Festival, and Synthesis Online Dance Festival. She is currently a children's social worker and freelance choreographer. Her Instagram handle is Nadine T Dances. And then we have Mary Lou Sandler. She is a photographer, cinematographer, producer, director, and owner of 3 Cube Studios, LLC, with her husband, Justin Sandler. Their award-winning film, Welcome to Where You've Always Been, appeared in 21 festivals and won 5 awards, including Best Short, and the 2FC Inspirational Filmmaker Award. She was once a working actor, video game stuntwoman, and fitness cover model, and now her focus is to inspire women and empower them to heal through the arts. She created Female Filmmakers, which is a group to empower and employ each other. She has also published a photography book, The Beard Book, with proceeds benefiting breast and testicular cancer charities. And last but not least, you have me, Julia Jeffers. I'm an award-winning actor, director, writer, producer, and teaching artist. On screen, I've appeared in 18 films, 35 guest star TV roles, and over 60 national commercials. Some of my notable credits include Chicago Med, Snowfall, Criminal Minds, and Grey's Anatomy. I have 5 solo plays that I've performed in different cities and in the Caribbean. And I'm currently curating Black Voices Solo Show Theater Festival at the Whitefire Theater, where my solo play Judgment Day will be the opening play on September 12th. As a teaching artist, I teach acting and writing in prison and to youth in the LA area. I also teach solo show master classes, and I've helped develop and direct numerous solo shows. My website is juliettejeffers.com or soloshowworkshops.com. So that's a mouthful. So let's just dive right into the nuts and the bolts of the biz. There's so much to cover, but I'd like to start with what you do when you are selecting a director or dramaturg, right? What are you looking for? And so I'd like to ask Terrie or Sky, both of them, but whoever would like to go first, to speak to that a little bit. Sky, looks like you'd want to start.
Well, yes. Hi, everybody. It's so great to be here and to have everybody zooming in. This is just incredible experience for all of us. I've been on both sides of it because I'm an actor, you know, and I've done, as Juliette said, 7 solo shows around the country, and I also direct. So it's very important to pick a director and a dramaturg who really gets you and gets your work. My first 6 shows I self-directed. But when I was developing my last show, Calling America Don't Hang Up, I felt like it was very important to bring in that third eye and to have a director direct me. And it was a process because you know, a lot of us, we just put up our solo shows and we self-direct, but to bring it to the next level, you really need somebody who jives with you, who understands what you're up to, what your message is, and can work with you in a productive way to bring you to that next level. So it was very difficult for me to choose that one person and to think like, this is my baby and I want somebody else to help me raise my baby. It's really like a marriage. And so I did finally find a director, and I brought my last show to Off-Broadway at the United Solo Theater Festival. And it was invaluable to have a director and somebody work with me. As actors and writers, we're very attached to our work. So a dramaturg is very important to be able to pare down and take out the stuff that doesn't need to belong there, the repetitive stuff, to look into your work as a script, and to really, you know, just pare it down to what's important and to what makes it flow and get the message out. As a director and dramaturg working with others, that's what I do. I love to just really dig in and strip away the stuff that doesn't belong there or might be okay for, you know, another time or another show. But I just feel it's very, very important to have this part of your process, because if you want to take it to the next level, you have to have somebody looking into your work and giving you their expertise and advice. So as a director and dramaturg, you know, I'm here and around to really just pull out the juice and what's going to make this piece pop, and what's going to, you know, what's the message that you're leaving your audience with. Hopefully it's something inspiring and, you know, something that will move the world forward. We'll talk about that in our next panel, I'm sure. But that's just kind of my perspective. Terrie, I'm sure you have a lot more to add to that.
Yeah, it's always really interesting when you're on both sides. I was directed way before I became a director and a dramaturg. I have an MFA in writing, so I know dramatic structure. But the most important thing is you want to realize what the artist's story is, and to not impose, but to really make that jewel shine. And especially when it's autobiography, you have to have an objective eye. And part of my job is being that blank audience so that we can really go through and get the story to be clear and dynamic. And it's a really sacred relationship between director and performer, and writer performer. So I think in selecting a director, you want to connect. Sometimes it's really instinctual. You want to have similar aesthetics. I think it's a great idea if you can see the director's work to see what excites you. I have been working on a new solo show, so I had to start looking and interviewing directors. And I think you want to feel safe, supported, and then the magic of all their gifts and all their talents. Whenever I would get to that place after I had written and revised a script, and then to get to start working with a director is thrilling and exciting. And it's such a privilege to have somebody else's talent and eye be given to your work, and then that magic collaboration. And in terms of dramaturgy, which is helping the writer with the structure, that's really key. And usually it's paring away so that we can really see the jewel. When we write, we have to overwrite, and to be able to tell that story so that all the breadcrumbs line up. I feel like that's my job as the dramaturg, and to really realize what the writer is wanting to say in a theatrical way, and to trust the way that they want to say it and what's the best way to do that. And I love directing. It's fun, it's magical. It kind of is like a movie on stage. And what I was really the most surprised about when I started directing, because in my life, you know, do I want to do this? Do I want to do that? Do I overpack? But when I'm directing, I am so clear about exactly what works, what isn't working. And that's a real joy, just to be able to see so keenly. So, and I think it's really important when you know both sides, because also as a performer, you know the vulnerability, you know the fears that come up. So to really honor where the writer is, and then to go on the road together.
Nice. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that, both Sky and Terrie. Terrie, can you talk a little bit to how to select a venue, right? And so we're talking about pre-COVID and now that we have COVID, you know, so what are your thoughts on
So it's obviously two different discussions, and it's such a surreal time now to think of, well, if it wasn't. So the first thing, and this is what I learned the hard way, of course, if you're in a festival, which means that if you're in a place where there's a couple different theaters wall to wall, make sure that your theater is soundproof. That is, if you're doing any festival, that is the most important thing, because I've, directed shows where a musical was next door, and you can hear everything. So just in terms of the technical, make sure the sound. You have to think about the audience. So part of picking the venue is the location. Where is my audience willing to drive to? How is the parking? And then the physical space. Do I feel happy here? You are actually making a home for your art. Some of it is going to be economics, in terms of what can I afford. I usually think smaller is better. It is great to sell out. And so it's much easier to sell out in a small theater. I mean, sure, some of the larger theaters, the prestige of it, but I think to be in your audience's shoes and think of Where are they willing to go? Because that's the hardest thing, is to get people to come to your show. I mean, that's one great thing about Zoom right now. You don't have to drive, you don't have to worry about parking. In terms of what's going on right now, there's actually some exciting things, and innovation always comes out of obstacles. I do have a background in performance art, so site-specific performances. So that may be something to think about. I have now seen pieces where they used an outside stage and the audience were in their cars, and it was a dance piece. There's also, I think at Huntington Gardens right now, they're having a roving concert. So there are musicians at various places, and very small groups walk to them. So if you have a backyard and shade, and you can distance, the White Fire, which some of you have performed at, and Jessica is very connected to it. They were ahead of the curve. They already started setting up live streaming. So I know that that's also a really great option if you physically need or want to be in a theater. A couple of my solo show masterclass students have performed in their house, and they did things that they would never be able to do on stage. So I had one student that performed from her bed. The bed was the stage, and she was talking about shame, and it was moving, and it was hilarious. Another one of my students, she did, and she has a small apartment, but it was a roving performance through each room. So it gave really interesting different perspectives and tones. We can do physicality. The other thing that's an advantage right now, we can get close up. There's an intimacy with Zoom that if we were in the theater, we'd never get to be like this. So there are actually advantages. So to think of, what do you need to do? Can you do it in your room, or can you go to some exterior place that where everyone feels safe and your distance? Site-specific work can be really exciting and really interesting, and then the environment takes on a character.
Beautiful. Thank
Juliette,
you.
can I also add to the venue space a little bit as well?
Yes, sure.
So also you want to have a conversation with whoever's in the venue about, marketing and how they are going to promote your show as well. Because when your show does well, they do well as well, right? So you want to talk to them about like how they're going to promote your show, but then also you want to see what type of following they have in their own social media, so that you can cater to those individuals as well and give the promotion materials that they require for their websites, their social media, and always tagging them, and hopefully they also tag you on their social media when they do promote your stuff. A good example of a venue that did that very well previously to COVID was Highways Performance Space in Santa Monica. So I encourage you to check them out as well.
Cool. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that.
And
So,
parking is a good thing.
yeah, exactly. And so we are in a time where we can't physically perform in theaters. I mean, unless it's being live streamed, like the Wi-Fi and socially distanced and all of that. But, traditional theater is not happening right now. And so we have to think outside the box. And so all these online performing opportunities that are out there that we can take advantage of. I mean, the thing as artists is that we don't need permission to perform, right? And so Terrie mentions a few of her clients performed from their home. I know Jessica's client, one of her clients performed. She has a show about motherhood. And so she had she performed in her living room with all of the props of the craziness of being, a mother and all of that. And so it totally works. And so you have streaming, right? Live streaming, like a theater, like the White Fire Theater. I feel like they're doing it the best. There are other theaters that are doing it, but they've been doing it for a long time. So they've really perfected it. You could do Facebook or IG Live, and then just have people sort of set up like a Venmo or Cash App for donations, right? You can do YouTube Live, or film your show and then put it on YouTube too.
Yes,
So
most definitely. You can actually decide on when it will release, so then you can actually have the link available for quite some time, and it premieres at a certain time. So that link will be active, but it will show like this will premiere at this time or what have you. And then it will just pop up and premiere on its own, which is kind of exciting and fun sometimes, I think.
Yeah, yeah. So it's like, you know, now is the time to really think outside the box. And just because we're going through a pandemic does not mean that you cannot perform. Like the show must go on, right? So make it work however you can. So
Can I
I'd
say
like,
something about
yeah,
that too?
sure.
Because Actors Equity, well, there are equity theaters that are opening across the country right now,
Oh,
because they're applying all of the safety uh, requirements. You know, I know there was a production of, I think, Beehive, where I know the girls, when we were in discussion, the girls were going to be wearing face shields. You know, figuring out different ways to make the actor safe as well as making the audience safe. But when I speak a little bit later, there's like a list of theaters across the country that are opening now.
perfect. Perfect. Thank you. Thank you for that. Yes, we'll get into that a little bit more in a bit. So in terms of, you know, we talked about picking a theater. So once you pick a theater that you know you vibe with and that like checks off all the boxes, I want Sky, if you can talk a little bit about the different deals that you can make with the theater, whether it's co-producing, partnering in whatever way. Can you share a little bit about what your experience has been with that?
Sure. So there's different situations, you know, when things were normal. There are festivals all around the country. I've been very fortunate to premiere many of my solo shows at fringe festivals. And the Fringe Festival situation is great because they're co-producing your work and they're giving you the venue. They're giving you a lot of the stuff you would have to do on your own, but you do generally still wind up paying for certain expenses like the advertising in their programming, or sometimes online advertising, or the physical program in the theater. I find fringe festivals to be great because you're in, you know, a setting where it's just for a few weeks. You go to a city you've never been to before. You're meeting new people, you're networking, you're generating your work and creating new relationships. And pretty much, you know, they set up everything for you and you just have to kind of show up, do your tech, and you're ready to go. So there are some advantages and some disadvantages to that. The disadvantages would be you're going to a new city and nobody knows you. And if you're not famous, how do you get that audience when you're competing with everybody else who's doing their shows in the same few weeks at the same time? So back to our conversation from before break, you know, having a publicist, having people on your team, creating more than just you doing everything is very important. And sometimes that's your director who's working with you to create hype about your work. Sometimes that's having an actual publicist, depending on what your money situation is and your networks. But premiering stuff at fringe festivals is great. And it's definitely, you know, a way to go if we were in normal times. The other situation is renting a theater. And Nadine, you spoke about Highways Performance Space. I've been performing at Highways for almost 20 years. It's a great venue. It's a 99-seat
Nice.
theater. Yeah, they can move the seats around. You can do anything. It's actually a place for movement and avant-garde and performance art.
Most definitely a very stylized performance space, in that they have a certain audience that you would typically want to cater to.
Yeah, I was going to say it's their works are usually gay, lesbian, but you know, GLBT,
Experimental.
Yeah, experimental. But one thing, you know, you look for theaters that have ongoing opportunities to present smaller pieces of work. So what I started doing with Highways, before I created my full-on 90-minute show with 50 characters, I was doing 10-minute pieces every month. I was just kind of like, okay, let me get stuff out there. And Highways at the time had like this gay series, and it was Gay Mondays or something, I forget what it was called, but over years, I started doing 10-minute pieces and developing audience and people getting to know my work and my experimentation. And then when I took my show to the San Francisco Fringe Festival, I took those 7 years of all these skits and characters and I started putting it together as one piece. And that's when I had a show. And that's when you want to start looking like, what's the best situation? Can somebody co-produce you where you're not spending a whole lot of money? Because if you are renting a theater, there are also different deals within that. You could be renting the theater straight out, you pay the money, you get all the box office, or you are in a partnership like Highways has a contract where I think you have to make sure that they get the first $500 of the box office, and then everything beyond that is yours. But the advantages, again, of partnering with somebody rather than just doing a straight rental is you're going to have their teamwork on the hype and the promotion and the online social media. Whereas if you're doing something on your own and just renting, you've got to bring in the audience, you've got to advertise, you've got to do every bit of the work. So you want to think about that, what level you're at in your work. If you're just starting out, find those festivals, find the little freebies. Also, Electric Arts Lodge used to have a once a month Voltage series where you can experiment and try pieces. And it's always a great way to get your stuff out there. And the last thing I just want to add is because we are in COVID times, what I've been doing with my students is we're actors, we're unstoppable. All the world is a stage. If we can't bring it into a venue right now, exactly what Juliette was speaking about and Terrie was speaking about, find new ways, think outside of the box, and perform your stuff on camera from home. My student who's online with us right now, Linda LaRose, we're creating a whole series of short films and videos that are her poems and her performances. And I encourage her every time, find a different place to stand, find a different view, make it exciting as if you were in a theater. And this serves for two purposes. One, you're still doing your work and getting your stuff out there while we're waiting for theaters to open up again. So you're creating the hype and the social media and people are hearing your voice. But two, you're going to have a body of work now that you can use for trailers and promos for when things do open up. You've got a body of work to show and promote and produce, and then you can translate it back into a theatrical situation.
That's a great point.
So really excited to talk in our next panel about how to make that work happen even when there's no theater.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you for that, Sky. So I want to get into union versus non-union, if there are any equity actors here. And DeBorah, she is a rep for equity. So can you speak to that a little bit, please?
Well, I am actually an actor, and I found myself in equity. I got cast in The Wiz, the national touring company of The Wiz. And at that time, I was trying desperately to be a member of SAG because coming from Joliet, Illinois, where I'm from, I'd never heard of Actors Equity at that time. But I booked this job, and I'm like, oh, gee, am I going to get to be SAG? And of course, Equity is the union for stage actors. And being it was a Broadway show, I had to join Equity. So I said, okay, thank you. And it has become one of the best 40-plus year ride I've ever had. Actors Equity Association was founded in 1913, and it's a labor board which, the way it's organized, members volunteer on the boards to establish policy, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So for years I was a member as an actor and not on any committees. I didn't even know about any of that stuff. I was just trying to work. And one day somebody I went to a town hall and discovered, oh, gee, they got all these committees. And once I got bit by that bug for the EEOC, I was hooked. And then I ended up running for counselor And I've been a member of the on council for like the last, I guess about 6 or 8 years. And basically, I am, but it's not important what I do. What's important is why you might want to join equity, because in this pandemic time, especially, even before, there's some of us who feel like, why pay dues if I can just go work and not, you know, not have to pay dues to somebody to work, and then when I'm paying dues to them, and they really want me to just work on the card all the time, and that can feel difficult to some people. But it's a great value to realize that there are health benefits, there are pension and health, well, pension and health that go together, benefits that when I was in my young 20s, I just knew that the producer was spending money for that. But then when I reached my 60s, all of a sudden there was money being put away for me. And that was a great value to realize that my career could support me in that way. So that's one of the things. Basically, equity is governed by members for members. Its chief policy making and governing body, the National Council, is elected by the membership and composed of working actors and stage managers. Equity officers and counselors serve without compensation, so we're not paid. But one of the things that is of great value, equity protects the actor, so making sure that the space that you work in is hygienically appropriate for you, because sometimes that may or may not be the case. Making sure that you get paid, because these were the things that were happening. Actors were going out in the world getting jobs, and then you get to the end of the job and you might not get your money. And so this is one of the reasons why the union came along, to make sure people got paid and were in a sanitary situation. And so there is a bond that producers put up with equity to make sure that even if the show closes, you're going to get your money. And of course, that's important to all of us. In this COVID time, we have, well, even before COVID, but there are webinars that we post regularly for all different levels to help you develop, including your one-woman show, including self-tapes. All of that is offered to you for free as a member, to help build your support, your base, so that you can go out there in the world as an actor.
Thank you for
I
sharing.
wanted to mention, if you are an equity actor, you are required to use equity contract to produce your solo work. And there are different contracts and different situations. So I faced this when I went to New York for the first time to do my show. It was the first time I had actually crossed over from non-union to union. And so there were all sorts of rules and regulations about the videotaping of your show, about, certain things. And as DeBorah has said, they protect you. But you do want to make sure, and you can contact your local equity office if you're in the United States and find out what the current rules and regulations and choices are as you move forward if you're deciding to find a venue and actually do your show. I would recommend, if you are equity, contact them to find out what the current stuff is, because you don't want to get in trouble from equity by self-producing and doing a non-equity show.
Well, and one of the things that you can do, members and non-members can go on the actorsequity.org site. Now, obviously, if you're a member, you're going to log in as a member, but there is a banner that goes across the top of the page that everybody can see. And one of the things that's there is Spotlight. Spotlight looks the same for members as it does for non-members. And it shows you the theaters that are open and are available, etc. The rules and regulations that Sky is speaking of, that information is also available, I think, in that banner section.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And then as far as like negotiating fees, when it's equity versus non-equity, with equity, for example, is it standard or are you negotiating?
Well, I think a person can always negotiate,
Mm-hmm.
but the value of the union is that there might be a particular floor that they can't go below.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas when it is your show on your own, you might not get the money that you want.
Right.
You know, obviously you can go, the sky's the limit for money, you know, but it's kind of nice to know that there can be a base.
Yeah. Cool. I'm not, I've been working in theater for so long, but I'm not equity. I did a show in New York, where it was an equity show, but they still let me perform.
Yeah.
But it was one of those things where the next one I would have to join, right?
Right, right.
And so I just found that because of the majority of the performances that I've done in theater has been solo shows, I've been able to get away with not being equity,
Right.
you know, which I think there are a lot of solo show artists out there that are not equity. And I think it's,
Well, like I said, the value of equity is the benefits when we're 20, 30, 40, even 50 years old. Well, now when you get to be 50, you kind of want to think that when you're 60, there's some money somewhere. But it's kind of nice to know that somebody's putting a little egg away for you. You know, like when I've worked shows before where you know, like you could get permission, I could get permission from equity, like Sky is saying. If I need to, if I'm offered something and it's not an equity show, then I
Mhm,
go to equity and say I'm offered to do this da 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 for my whatever, for my sorority, for my church, for my whatever, and
mhm.
they give me permission. Okay, you have this permission to go do this. But Lord, I said that for a reason, and I lost my thought. Sorry.
The advantage to being equity versus non-equity.
Okay. In the equity advantage, like I said, there was a particular thought I was aiming for, but I think I
Mhm.
lost it in there somewhere. So
That's
hopefully it
okay.
comes up.
Yes, if
Um,
it comes back, let us know.
hopefully I don't just want to ramble, if you know
Right,
what I mean.
right.
But I could get permission to do that non-equity show.
Mm-hmm.
But the I got the thought back. But the pension and health, for example,
Mm-hmm.
that's being put up for the works that I week when I'm in equity, I'm
Yes,
not getting those in this non-union show.
of course. Yeah.
Okay, I'm not getting them. This great gospel show or whatever that I'm doing, that's lasting for ever so how many weeks, and sometimes they pay pretty good, but I'm not making any money, any of that other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So what they will tell you to do, because I've known people that do like those gospel shows and they might get $2,000 a week, you know, for the show, but nothing's being put away for them at all.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
so they're told, well, it's up to you to set up your own pension and health and to make sure you get your own taxes taken out. Well, we know what happens. You know, you get $2,000 in the bank, you probably put it in the bank and pay some bills. That's what
Right.
people do,
Exactly.
you
Yeah.
know. And so then in the end, I have a dear girlfriend, who was reached into the 60s now, and she discovered being well, she's not so much equity, but we're talking union versus non-union, so that's why I'm going to mention it.
Mhm.
Hers was like a commercial, a couple of commercials that she did, got paid really well on SAG. um, yes, yes, but she didn't pay attention to pension. You've got to make so much money per year to get the pension point
Of course.
in the union. And
Mm-hmm.
so then you start paying attention to that. When you're doing a Broadway show, you're doing a tour, you're getting paid every week, so you know that it's going in. But when you do a little bit here and a little bit there, sometimes you have to make sure that you're getting the pension point. You say it's $1,000 a year. That was many years ago that's what it was. Now it's so much more for a SAG. But say it's $1,000 a year. You got to make sure that you make at least that $1,000,
Mm-hmm.
and then you know that you got your pension point. You
Yeah.
know, these things are important.
Yes, yes. Well, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. So I want to move on to selecting a photographer and a videographer for your show. Mary Lou, do you want to speak a little bit about that?
Yes, I have a lot of notes because I'm very visual and technical because I'm a photographer and videographer. So I have a lot of golden notes to tell everyone. If you have your pens and paper ready.
I'm ready.
All right. I just realized that I can hear myself here. Okay. So first of all, thank you, because I've never really been on a panel before, so I'm honored and I'm learning so much from all of you. And then I wanted to, can you hear that? Sorry.
You're good.
Okay. So with your videographer, do the upfront investment of time and money to have the right materials. It's very important. Even though you may be spending a lot upfront, once you've done and had all of your materials and your filming and your photos ready, then you can continue using that forever for your show. And you can just repurpose that, like your flyers. You can just change dates and all that other stuff. With my husband's show, Embrace Love Free, Justin Sandler, we've been reusing everything, and we filmed everything with 3 different cameras, and we put it into a package, and now he's streaming it on the pay-per-view Whitefire Streamfest. So he's still continuing to get his investment back in revenue, and also supporting the theater. And so solo show doesn't have to be solo, you know, having a team. There was talking earlier that, you know, teamwork makes the dream work. Make sure that you're delegating responsibilities so you can give more space to creating your own art. I used to do everything myself, and I have learned that over the years I've been on this earth, that investing in saving on my time is worth every penny. I've also learned that if you go the cheap route, you're going to wind up paying for it again and again. So I've learned that with my house. I've learned that with anything I've done filming or photography. Clients are always coming to me saying that I have to pay for this again. So if you invest wisely the first time, you won't have to pay for it again.
So I just want to stop you for a second. So what is like an average price for a videographer for a solo? Let's say an hour's worth of their work plus the editing, or that might be something separate. But what is an average price for a photographer to do a one-person show and a videographer?
You just asked me the question that Justin always is the one that deals with the price and business, and I'm always the one that deals with the visual and everything. I'm lucky enough to have that, which I don't deal with the business part, but I believe that our package for Jessica's clients was $250 for a 60-minute show. But but honestly, we didn't even charge people if they had a 90-minute show extra, because we're just that way. But usually if I'm doing an event as a photographer, it's $200 an hour, and a videographer is $250 an hour.
Okay.
Editing?
And editing, that's Justin's area. That's not my expertise, so I wouldn't be able to tell you.
I would say it ranges, you know, but the average editor is making at least $100 an hour, at very least, I think. Would that be what you would say with Justin? Yeah. Editing is
he's here. He can write in the comments, I believe.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
And so there he is. He just said full price is $500 for a full show, but we gift 50% off for the solo community. So there you go. And Mary Lou did the photography for my website too, and I love it. Oh, thank you, Jessica. So I have so much more to give you if you'd like me.
We have 5 minutes for each section. So okay. Just a couple more nuggets.
Okay, so I'm gonna go get technical then. Make sure that you have a videographer that tests all of your lighting. I'm very anal with this. So I'm always like, to the tech person, I'm like, give me your brightest scene, give me your darkest scene. So I know in between, because I'm not shooting on auto. I don't have people shooting on auto and then just having it go, because the camera can't usually keep up with all the different technical things that are going on with your show. Also, audio is very, very important, and make sure that you have a good off-camera mic that's a directional mic, because you don't want to hear the audience, laughing and responding. You want to hear it behind your performance, not in front of your performance, so you can't hear you. And then most of the time, because everything's pretty digital right now, and unless you're going to be printing huge posters or billboards, you don't really have to hire a photographer and a videographer if the videographer is filming in 4K, because you can get screenshots from your video, so you can save money that way. I'm the queen of getting things for free or very low cost. I have a wealth of information in this brain. I furnished this whole studio for almost free. So I have like tricks and tips on that. If you ever want to ask me, I'm here for you. However, I do not skimp on people's services and their talent, because like I said before, you're gonna wind up paying for it again. So make that investment.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Sorry, to add on to that,
Mhm.
I think what she said earlier was very key in when you're doing photography and video work. It's very good to have a variety. So whenever you do photo shoots, you want to do photo shoots in multiple outfits. You want different looks. You want multiple of everything. So like, for example, for my personal page, I did like this huge birthday photo shoot, right? 4 different outfits, 5 like different locations. You want that all, like we all packed that in Pasadena in 2 hours. Granted, I did it for free with a friend, but I have so much content that I can use and that, potentially reuse every single time I post about something that I've done, give to festivals for promotional work. Like it's good to have a huge archive to pull from, so that when you do try to promote yourself, no matter what it is, you have this huge range of things that you can pull from.
Nice. Well, that's a great segue to talk about promoting ourselves, promoting our video, like a promo video, and editing and creating all of that. What are your suggestions in that area?
So I do have a couple examples. So one of the things that I think is now a trend is behind the scene promotional videos. So I'm going to try to put a link for one that I created myself a long time ago, and back when Instagram wasn't doing more than just 1 minute for video. So the good thing about Instagram is now that you have the ability to put quite long videos on there now. But I think it's really nice for the audience to see the process going up to that final product. Another company that does promotional videos very well is a company that I'm also associated with, the Wayward Artists in Orange County. They do videos with the director of the company, as well as whoever is directing the show, or whoever's producing the show, which I think is like really cool to like get into the nitty-gritty of what the show is about, what their approach was, what they want the message to be with that certain production, so that the audience can get a feel for what type of thing they can expect to see. So check them out, most definitely. They also do a very good job with creating very dynamic posters for all their productions, which you also want to invest in when you're creating posters for your solo shows. I think it's very important to have a very good, strong image, not just like something where it has all the information, right? Because you can put that on the ticket information website link. You can put that on your Facebook event page. You can put that in the comment section. Like, I think it's having that strong image to associate with your show that is the most important thing. Because I'm sure all of us, when we're going through our Instagram, we're just scrolling, right? We're just scroll masters, just going through very quickly. The only time we stop is when we see something we're like, wow, right? So you want that for your poster, you want that for your images, is like for people to stop scrolling, because that's the hardest part, is getting someone to stop scrolling. And then the next hard part is also trying to get them to read the entire comment and caption, on that photo, right? So I always suggest that people try to keep it short, sweet, simple, and smash it with the hashtags, right? So just hashtags of the wazoo. Really good ones: women, empowerment, solo show, even like lady boss is a great one. All those things that like are very strong and very short hashtags get a lot of traffic, because those are the hashtags that people follow, especially on Instagram, right? So I think it just really comes down to being concise for posts, and then once you have like an event page, a ticket thing, you can put down as much information as you want at that point. But it's getting them to that link that is the first step and the most important step.
Beautiful. I love that. And I just wanted to add a little bit to that, you know, they say a picture's worth a thousand words. I feel like videos worth like more than that, you know, because people tend to be, it's like, I feel like people will look at a video quicker than they'll look at a picture, quicker than they'll look at like just words, text, right? And so in terms of promoting your show, something that I like to do is I will take a character from one of my shows and just post a quick video as the character, right? So if, you know, if it's a character, you know, if I'm doing my grandmother who talks like this, I might say, Juliette is having a show, so you must come down and see her show soon. I'm going to be in the show too. You know what I mean? Something like that. Make it really interesting and fun, so that just, you know, makes it pop.
Yeah,
The show
most definitely. And like I mentioned earlier with Sky, is like making sure that whoever is involved with your production is also sharing those things and tagging you, and you're also reposting those shares and whatever on your stories, and like make it even a post, like whatever. So like I provided the example of Highways Performance Space. They do this very effectively for all their artists. If you go to their Instagram page, you can see they use the reposting app, and they repost everything that their artists post about their show and their process onto their page, and they tag them in it. So not only are you getting their audience on their platform, but hopefully their audience is also clicking on your tag to go to your page. So you're getting more traffic. So like, for instance, when I was doing my collab with the Wayward Artists, they tagged me in their stuff, I tagged them in my stuff, right? So you're getting a bigger, broader audience and a further reach, right? So the good thing about social media is that you can kind of track this with your insights and see how that is working out with you. And when you're making your partnerships with like venues, other artists, companies, any of that, you always want to try to get their handle, which is why I plugged in my handle earlier, right? You want that ability to connect that in that way, so that you can hopefully promote, and hopefully if you do a share, they do a share back, right? It's also kind of like courtesy, I think, in that. So like, if someone mentions you in something in their story, please share. Right? It can only help you, right? And then in turn it also helps them.
Yes, beautiful.
I wanted to mention, just, you know, because I've been learning this lately, because we are in such a media saturated world, and how Nadine was speaking, you're just flashing through things, the importance of starting to promote way, way early in your process. You don't have to wait until you have your show complete to start throwing tidbits out there.
Yeah, most definitely.
A marketing expert, you know, just told me, if you don't start 6 months in advance of your film coming out, nobody's going to pay attention once it's out. It's the same thing with your solo material, and just, you know, presenting who you are as an artist and getting your stuff out there, that the more you get into the practice of, like Juliette, you've been posting every single day, you've got so many things going on, and it brings visibility to your work. So you have to just start getting your stuff out there in little tidbits and professional tidbits to get the attention, and do it early on in your process as part of your process. And I also wanted to mention 2 quick things: that you can hire somebody from across the seas for like $5 on a website called Fivers.com. And that's a great resource if you're looking for a very particular pixelated poster image that has to go on Facebook and it's got to be very specific, but you're not a graphic designer. Go to Fivers.com. You can bid like $5, $10 to get somebody to work on an ad that pops that might be better than you would do on your own. And there was one other thing I was going to say too. Oh, that you can set up like with Hootsuite and some of the other online services, instead of having to post every day on your own, you can set it up so that it posts at 3 p.m., 6 p.m., 9 p.m. So you can look into some of those online resources that aren't too expensive on how to get that promotional stuff going and throwing your images and your videos out there.
Nice. Yeah. And well, besides all of the social media posting and e-blasting, something that helps for me is I literally I'll just go through my phone and I'll send a text and then cut and paste and just keep sending it to people. And I always ask, and I pick people that I know that are like my peeps, right? That will help me spread the word. And I'll just say, can you tell 5 people? And they'll tell 5 people, and so on and so on, that kind of thing. So that really helps. So we only have 5 minutes left, and I wanted to see if anybody has any questions, but before we do that, can I have everyone just say, all my panel, just give your handle, your IG handle, Facebook, where can we find you? So let's just start with Nadine. You already gave yours, right? You can say it again.
And I'm about to put it back into the chat as well.
Actually, that's great. Why don't we all put it in the chat?
Yeah, so my handle is Nadine T Dances.
I'm at Delusional Diva, and please click on me, become my friend. I'm at Delusional Diva on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, Venmo. Well, if you can spell Delusional Diva, you got me. And so I put it in.
Mary Lou, what about you? Did you put it in already? You put it in.
Mary Lou Sandler on Instagram and at 3 Cubed Studios on Instagram.
Excellent.
And everywhere, actually.
Nice. DeBorah?
Oh boy, I'm learning, but
one thing I might add though is that there is a Google search and a YouTube tutorial for everything. So if I don't know how to do something, I see someone did something cool and I want to learn how to do it, I Google it. That's my best friend. Yes. Everything in life I Google.
Awesome. Well, the best way to find me, like when my sister here asked me about my web page, I tell people to Google me, and then there are like 4 or 5 really great web pages in different categories for me that do come up, from whether it's singing or teaching or the film actor or the voiceover actor. All those areas are, you just say website DeBorah Sharpe-Taylor and all that comes up. But Deborah Lynn Sharpe-Taylor is who I am on Facebook. Deborah Sharpe-Taylor, I think, is who I am on Instagram. I was trying to see here because I'm on there, but I'm like learning how to be on there better. But yeah, I'm there.
Okay, cool. And then Terrie?
My website is Creative Rights. Creative, the way you spell creative, CreativeRights.com. Terrie Silverman and Creative Rights, Writing, Performance, and Creative Expression on Facebook, and Terrie Silverman on Instagram. I'm on Twitter and I never use it. Sorry.
Perfect. We have 2 minutes. Should we does anybody have a burning question that they need to ask?
I think someone had asked a question earlier about making money off of live streams and such. So my actual suggestion is to use Zoom, because Zoom, you can have a friend, someone that will volunteer their time to be like a host and monitor the stream, because then Zoom, you have the ability to kick people off of it if they, for whatever reason. So you have people RSVP, they make a payment, okay? And then you have that list of people and their names. So then you just instruct those people to log in with their name listed, and then that person, your friend, whoever is hosting, can go through the list of people and make sure that the people that are on that list are in the chat or whatever, and ensure that no one is there that shouldn't be. Because with, you know, it's essentially just a link and a password, or if it has a password, so anybody can come in, right? So, and things get shared on the big wide web. So then that way you can at least ensure that people are only, the people that are watching are the people that paid for it.
Okay, cool. All right. Well,
And you
thank you
encourage the
so-
people that, and you encourage the people that paid for it to respectfully hold on to that information.
Oh
Because they
yes,
can
most
share it.
definitely. I have a lot of friends who not kind of influencers, and they also sell content as well. And a lot of them, they put it at a price point where you don't want to pass it on, because it's enough of it has enough value that you would want to keep it yourself and not share, right? I mean, also this content is a little bit more 21
what kind of price
plus.
point are you talking about?
Sorry?
What kind of price point are you speaking of?
Oh, but see, their content is more sensitive, which is why they have the ability to put it at a very high price point. Like I'm talking hundreds of dollars. But you know, with our purpose,
that's what I was asking. Because
yeah.
if it's
So,
hundreds
but
of dollars,
that's,
you're not going to share it. You're right.
yeah. So, but I think for our purposes of a solo show, like we're not at a point in our lives where we want to put it at such a high price point that we have very few select clients, but clients, audience, what have you. But most definitely, I think a good price point, you know, that most people wouldn't be unwilling to, you know, share the content like that is like $35, $50, depending on your audience and like what demographic you are targeting.
Hi everyone. I'm sorry to interject, but I want to thank all of our panelists and Juliette Jeffers for hosting this. I know that we do need to move into our next workshop, and I know Adila, you are wanting to speak to the raffle before we do that. So Adila, the stage is yours.
Okay, just a moment. I just want to first of all say I am just thrilled with today. This is our first time doing our virtual. Normally it's one day for Empowerment Day. And because we received a grant from the Department of Cultural Affairs, we're able to do it for an entire weekend. And as you all know, for only $25, they underwrote us, and we appreciate them and we want to acknowledge them. And I just want to quickly go back to our raffle. And I want to say that the raffle tickets, and Jessica's been kind enough to put all the information in the chat room, but I'll just say it verbally.
And I'll add it again.
And she's doing it again. Venmo at LAWTF Barnes. 3 tickets for $5, 8 for $10. And we've got Juliette Jeffers. She's giving a ticket to her live stream show of Judgment Day at the Whitefire Theater. $15.99. We have 2 different DVDs that Faye Hauser Price is donating. Her husband, Louis Price, formerly of the Temptations, is the person who recorded these pieces, and they're each for $20. One's called A Few of My Favorite Things. The other is The Gift of Song. We have my book. It's a bestseller, thank goodness. On My Own Terms, One Actor's Journey. And the value is $25. That includes shipping, and I will autograph the book. So please do consider getting the book, even if you don't win. I just got a whole new batch of books, and they're all looking for a new home. And then we have 1 piano lesson with DeBorah Sharpe-Taylor, valued at $60. I have an hour acting or writing consultation for $100. Terrie Silverman has 2 creative rights classes, $55 value each. And then DeBorah Sharpe-Taylor for $125 value. She has a voice lesson. And then we have Terrie Silverman again, 1 hour coaching, $150 value. We have Brenda Edelman, who has a 1 solo show creation session valued at $250. That includes a bonus module for digital programming. Wow. And that's called Create, Promote, and Profit with a 1-person show. We have Michelle Jewsbury. She's got a strategy session, whatever you need to strategize on in terms of your solo show, valued at $297. We have Melanie McSally coming in with automation bundle. That's what she's giving us, an automation bundle, valued at $500. This includes a sales automation 101 masterclass, a lead capture bootcamp, 1 month of lead capture software. We've also got our webmaster and our social media person and our graphic designer, Phyllis Stacy Brooks. She's giving 3 months social media push, valued at $885. That is amazing. If I could get tickets, I would. And then also our grand prize, ta-da, is a week stay at my Writer's Well in Georgia, valued at $1,000. So get your tickets, folks. These are great prizes, and you're also helping the festival by doing so. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Adila. So everyone, we are now moving into solo artists as activists. That's running from 2:30 to 3:30, and our facilitators are the beautiful Juliette Jeffers and Sky Palkowitz. So let me go ahead and unmute our facilitators. Sky, you should be unmuted now, and Juliette, let me find you on my list. We have so many participants, it's awesome, but it just makes it hard to find everybody. Okay, there you are, Juliette.
Hi, welcome. Okay, let's go right into this since we're already a few minutes behind. So,
Yes.
those of you who are just joining us, I'm going to reiterate and reintroduce my colleague, Juliette. Juliette Jeffers is a Caribbean American actor, writer, director, producer, and teaching artist. On screen, she's been in over 18 films, 33 guest star TV roles, and over 60 national commercials. And she still does theater. She's worked with esteemed actors like Jim Carrey, Susan Sarandon, and Will Smith. Oh God, I wish we had hours to hear about those stories. Some of her notable credits are Chicago Med, Snowfall, Criminal Minds, Grey's Anatomy. Her theater highlights include 5 solo plays that she wrote and performed in: Batman and Robin and the Boogie Down, which she won Bronx Council on the Arts Award, a Drama Desk Award, and an NAACP nomination. She did Chocolate Match. I remember that one. That was fun. How do you say this one? Pangyul?
Pangyul.
I don't know what that means. Judgment Day.
Girl.
Oh, okay. And Judgment Day, which you're going to tell us about, September 12th at the White Fire. And Tio Pablo, one of my favorite characters. She actually did this in English and Spanish. It was the Best Play and Best Actress Award at the Hollywood Short and Sweet Festival. And as a teaching artist, Juliette has taught acting to inner city youth in New York. She's conducted various workshops throughout the country focusing on theater, solo shows, acting for TV, film and commercials, as well as the ins and outs of show business. She teaches acting to inmates in correctional facilities in Los Angeles, and Juliette is also a private coach and has helped develop and direct several solo shows. She also was an Ovation Award voter for 2 years, and she serves on our very own Los Angeles Women Theater Festival screening panel, and she's a proud advisory board, former board of directors member of the Los Angeles Women's Theater Festival. And of course, for more information, check out her website and all her handles, juliettejeffers.com. Hi.
Thank you for that, Sky. So let me big you up a little bit. So
Okay.
so Sky is a member of Equity and SAG-AFTRA, and she is known as the Delusional Diva. And she is an avant-garde multimedia performance artist, actor, director, producer from New York. She was classically trained at the University of Delaware's PTTP, holds an MFA in acting from the University of Iowa, and was mentored by the late, great Rachel Rosenthal. Palkowitz has produced and performed 7 solo shows nationally and hundreds of characters. She has been using performance as a method of education and activism for nearly 30 years. Palkowitz is a proud, long-standing member of the board of directors of the Los Angeles Women's Theater Festival. She can be seen on stage, TV, film, and internet. She is in development for her upcoming web series, Miss Inappropriate, and recently directed the film Samuel Sexy. Sky spends quarantine time Zoom coaching and directing multimedia content for her solo artist students. Sky enjoys the process of creation and helping others achieve their artistic dreams. Beautiful.
Namaste.
Yes.
Thank you. So we're gonna go right into a quick dialogue. This panel is called Solo Artists as Activists. And I think this is a very important topic, especially given our situation and everything that's happening in the world. And I want to turn it over to you guys on the audience and our participants. I would like for 3 people to just raise your hand and share. And Jessica, you can unmute them as Juliette picks. I can't see everybody at once. So Juliette, you call on whom. And the rest of you, I invite you to just put your answers in the chat if we don't call on you in person. But tell me, what does that mean to you? What does it mean to be an artist and an activist? Does anybody want to address that briefly?
I see Rose.
I just wanted to say the virtual hands is probably how we should do this, since we can't see everybody at once, and for me to facilitate it, it's easier if people raise their virtual hands. So
We'll let you, Jessica.
you just go to participants, guys, and you click raise virtual hand. Participants and raise virtual hand. And Juliette, should I go in the order that people have raised their hand, Juliette, or how do you want to do it?
Well, we can start with Rose because she raised her physical hand, and then we can go in the order of.
Okay, Rose, let me unmute you.
Again, your question is to talk about why, or our opinions about activism.
What does it mean to be an artist and an activist? What does that mean to you, and why is it important now?
Okay, it's important to me because I get to tell the story the way I see it. Everybody knows that I have been a pro-aging activist a long time, and pro-women. So, but the pro-aging thing came out of a need to understand what was happening to me going through the change of life. And any woman who gets to be 35 and goes onward goes through a lot of stuff that we don't ever talk about, we don't share with our daughters. So I thought activism in terms of pro-aging was a platform for me to encourage myself and to encourage other women, men, and their children to understand that aging is not a bad thing. And so I use it as a platform to do something positive, to make life a little easier. And it's not just about ageism, it's Alzheimer's. I had a play called Skips in the Record, along with my menopause mama, and those two allowed me to have a voice. And that solo performance, which I didn't see anything else happening anywhere, but Vagina Monologues was going on, but I didn't see anything else really dealing with these issues. And so that's why it's important to me to have this solo performance platform.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Great, thank you. Let's hear another opinion.
So I'm gonna read a couple of the things in the chat, the comments in the chat. So Patricia says, activism brings passion and purpose to the gift of being an artist. Kat Kramer says, I'm an activist, advocate in life, an animal rights activist, etc.
Yes, you are, Kat. I know that. Yeah.
Yes.
Some folks want to share.
I think one more person because we are behind.
Juliette, can you see the hands? Can you guys see the hands and pick a name for me?
I don't see a hand, so.
Okay, so I'll just go with the next on the list, which is Diana Elizabeth. So let me unmute you. Diana? Okay, great. Say hello, Diana.
We can't hear you.
You may have to unmute yourself.
She is unmuted. I'm not sure why it's not working. So sorry, Diana, we're gonna have to keep going down the list. TL, let me unmute you.
And Diana, maybe you can put it in the chat.
Yeah, Diana, put it in the chat. And TL, you are unmuted.
Yeah, hi, thank you for calling on me. I'm an activist because I get to be a pioneer, a leader, a new thought leader, a provocateur, an agent of possibility. And when I do it, I get my own healing from it. Like my giving it is the way that I keep my own rightness.
Nice.
Thank
Nice.
you.
Thank you. So I just want to read, Linda says, there's a lot of darkness in the world right now. Activism and solo performance shines a light in the world and gives us hope. Beautiful.
Very
Yes,
true.
it does.
Yeah.
It does. So then let's move on. Then I'm sorry that I feel a little bit rushed, but we're gonna get through
perfectly
everything.
on time. According to our schedule, we're perfectly on time, Juliette. So let's just go into the artivist conversation.
Okay, so one more comment. Faye says, I'm an activist so that I can put images and stories of real people of color on the stage when they are not in the textbooks, movies, or papers. Yes,
Yeah.
so important. So I just want to read the definition of an artivist, an artist and activist together. So the artivist uses her artistic talents to find and struggle against injustice and oppression by any medium necessary. The artivist merges commitment to freedom and justice with the pen, the lens, the brush, the voice, the body, and the imagination. The artivist knows that to make an observation is to have an obligation. And Eve Ensler said, this passion has all the ingredients of activism, but is charged with the wild creations of art. Artivism, where edges are pushed, imagination is freed, and a new language emerges altogether.
That's beautiful. Yeah. Wow. Go Eve Ensler.
Right?
I have a quote, and I will share this as well, and a little bit of a story about where it comes from. So for those of you who might have known of the very, very famous late, great Rachel Rosenthal, I spent almost a decade in company with her and studying avant-garde and performance art. Rachel was one of the wisest women I've ever met on the planet, and she lived to be 89. And the conversation and the quote I have to share, he said to us one day, make art, make art, make art. It is the only way to go and the only way to ride this wave we call life. She spoke about being an artist, and I'm sure many of you have felt this, that when you are born an artist and you have these gifts and these talents, it's a calling. Some of you might have discovered this calling very early on in life, and some of you may still be in the discovery process of your calling. But why that calling is important is because we as artists have a responsibility to shift the world forward. And every moment that I spent in Rachel's presence and in her teachings, it really is carried with me through the years and into my own work. I used to just write a lot of autobiographical material and, therapy and talk about my life on stage and do different characters. But over the years, it's shifted into how do we make a statement? How do we use art to actually promote change and educate? Some of you have heard the term edutainment, which is, educating through entertainment. Just to go back to what Rachel said, if you have a calling, it is your responsibility, your obligation as an artist to follow that calling and to put your work out there and to use your talents and your gifts and your abilities to make a difference. So, that's what this panel is about. We're here, artists face the biggest struggle on the planet. We have the least amount of funding and the most adversaries in government right now to keep art moving and flowing. So what is your calling? What is it that you have to express? This is, an ongoing conversation, and I know Juliette's about to lead us into a wonderful way into finding that place in your heart of what it is you have to express and what you stand for. But I just truly believe, it is our responsibility. We have to make art. We're the only people on the planet who can influence millions of people, and especially now through social media.
Mhm.
So what is it you have to say, and how can you use your work to make this place better? Take it, Juliette.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I have a question for you.
Yes.
With your solo show, Calling America, Don't Hang Up, what inspired you to write that?
Oh, that's a crazy one. Okay, so Calling America was my 7th solo show, and it was a real shift for me in content and material. Very, very activist. I did this show in 2012 and 2013 when we were still under the Obama administration, and it would be something that would, really fly now. But I was doing my side job, and I was working as a professional fundraiser for many different organizations, nonprofit organizations around the world. And one of the main jobs I had was to raise money for the Heritage Foundation, which is a very, very conservative think tank in Washington, D.C. I was playing the greatest role of my life in playing this, fundraiser to survive. And my friends were coming to me like, what are you doing working for a conservative think tank? You're the most leftist person there ever could be. So I had started over the years, looking at these characters and people and what brings us together when we have so many isms that bring us apart. So in my show, I was, expressing black and white and gay and straight and, all the things that separate us. How can we see from each other's point of view? And so I wrote Calling America, Don't Hang Up. The pitch was, what happens when a pot-smoking Jewish lesbian punk rocker clown goes to work for the most conservative think tank in the nation? And the 50 characters that I did on stage and through voiceovers expressed the gamut of culture and people. I play men, I play women, I play Russian, I play black, I play white. And my whole premise of the show was love thy neighbor, for they are you. That no matter what I was finding in my fundraising job and speaking to these people who were very opposite from me, was that we all want the same things. We all want a better country for our kids and our grandkids. We want good government. We want, all of our rights to be heard. We want equality. We want justice. But we have different ways of viewing and thinking about that. So my show, Calling America, was really a plea to humanity to pay attention to the planet, to start treating each other with respect and looking for our commonalities and not our differences, and how to bring people together, with that subject, with politics being so, drastically ripping us apart and putting us in these boxes. How do we bring everybody back together? That's what I expressed in my show. And it was great because, I had people coming up to me and just going, I never thought about that. And boy, I see something from a different point of view. And that is always the greatest compliment as an artist, is to say, I made people think, I made them shift their way of being, that they're actually going to explore some other way of life because something that I said or did on stage.
Beautiful.
And tell me a little bit about Judgment Day, because I know this is also a very political show and deals with a lot of the things that are going on in our society right now. Can you talk a little bit about Judgment Day?
Yeah. Well, Judgment Day, I was inspired to write Judgment Day that week a few years ago when Philando Castile and Alton Sterling were murdered by the police, and it happened within a few days of each other. I was so upset, angry, had so much rage that I was like, what do I do? I don't know what to do. And so I started writing. And one of the things that just kept coming up for me was I started looking at all of the injustices that have happened to Black people since the beginning of time. And I'm a very spiritual person, but I started questioning God. And I thought to myself, well, if other people are questioning God, I mean, if I'm questioning God, I'm sure other people are questioning him, spirit, universe as well. So then, because we always think about that. We always think, why does God allow a little baby to get cancer? Why, all of these natural disasters that happen, like why is there God? So I thought, what if I wrote a piece where I'm holding God accountable for all of the injustices that have happened to Black people over the years? And that is how Judgment Day was born. And unfortunately, here we are a few years later, and it's still relevant. I'm going to be performing it, as I mentioned, coming up in Black Voices Festival at the White Fire Theater. And it has a new meaning for me now. It's like new, but the same. So that being said, I'd like to go into a little bit of a guided meditation. So if you all can just get into a comfortable position and close your eyes, take a deep breath in. Take another deep breath in and let it out. One more deep breath in. Breathing in peace and letting out disorder. As you're here with your eyes closed, I want you to focus on your feet. Feel the ground beneath you. Feel the life force energy in your feet. Feel that energy move up your legs, to your knees, your thighs, then to your root chakra, pelvic area, then to your sacral chakra, which is the bottom of your spine. Feel it move to the front by your solar plexus chakra, which is the navel area. And now let's move that life force energy up to the heart chakra. Feel it right there. Let it stay there for a moment. So as you're feeling this life force energy in your heart area, think about this. Adila mentioned yesterday that we are creative first responders. So it is our responsibility as artists to create change. So listen to your heart. What does your heart want to say? What does your heart want to say when you think about the current state of our country, of our world? The pandemic, racism, police brutality, the upcoming election. Listen to your heart. Take another deep breath in. Let it out. And when you're ready, I'd like you to take out a pen and paper, maybe a notebook or a journal, and write about what's on your heart right now. Write from your heart. It can be a stream of consciousness writing. It can be in the form of poetry or prose, however your heart chooses to express. So you can begin whenever you're ready. I'll give you a few minutes. I'll give you guys a couple more minutes. Okay, Sky.
Okay, so hopefully y'all just got a little inspired and did some free stream writing, and whatever came up in your heart is probably what your calling is calling you to focus on now. So I wanted to again open up the panel and share a little bit about what came up for you. So we'll take a few people. Again, Jessica, if you can unmute them one by one. Does anybody have something that came up for them that they'd like to share with the group?
Okay, great. I see Diana Elizabeth. Let me unmute you. Try this again. Say hello, Diana.
Can you hear me?
I can. Great.
Yay!
Hi, Diana.
Yay! So can I share what I wrote, or do you want me to share what I wrote?
Yes.
Whatever you want. Yeah, whatever.
Okay. I'll share this real quick. I often feel silenced, sometimes by others, and sometimes I do it to myself. Was it done on purpose? I really got a chance to speak to figure out what the issue was with my mic. Just felt quickly silent and bringing back a brush of memories of feeling like I don't belong, like I won't be accepted. Even though there may be a smile on the voice, the inner voice is silently judging me. I'm making assumptions because of how my voice sounds, assuming I might be drunk or less intelligent. I know this because I've been asked, "Are you drunk?" I never have been because I don't drink, but the fears and assumptions often silence me before I give myself a chance to speak and express myself.
Thank you, Diana. We met, I think about a year or two ago at a meeting, and you approached me and